Hello, good evening, and welcome to the latest edition of the National Roadshow virtual. I'm joined tonight by Gordon MacIntyre-Kemp of Believe in Scotland, and we're here to talk about the Autumn of Indy Action, which kicks off this weekend with a day of action, which we're going to get into and we're going to speak loads about in a bit. We're broadcasting out tonight across quite a few platforms. So we've got people watching from the Nationals Facebook page, from the Nationals YouTube channel, our Twitter, and also the Believe in Scotland's Facebook pages, of which it has several. So don't know where you're coming from, don't know where you are tonight, but thanks for tuning in anyway. Across all those platforms, I believe if you comment, we can pull up your comment on the screen. So please get involved, join the discussion, and Gordon can probably answer your questions as well. So I'm the editor of the National, Callum. We are involved in this day of action, which is very much being led by Believe in Scotland. Gordon, before we start, why don't you just tell us a bit about Believe in Scotland, about what it is, what it aims to do in the independence movement. What is the point of Believe in Scotland? Why is it there?
Sure, yeah. So basically, most people remember I started Business for Scotland ahead of the first referendum, and we got a lot of business people together to actually make the business case for independence. And so we carried on because we knew that we got 45%. We knew that all the promises that delivered a no vote were going to be broken. So we carried on thinking there's going to be another referendum. Maybe we thought it was going to be sooner than it is, but I'll be quite happy if we're free by 23. And as I was traveling around the country talking to yes groups, a lot of yes groups were saying, we can't get active. There's no leaflets, there's no materials, no books, no posters. You know, who's coordinating things? Who's helping us? And after I'd spoken to about 10 to 15 yes groups, I actually said, I was talking to the Aberdeen independence movement. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, hold on a second. Shall I just form an organisation to actually support the grassroots? And they just went mad and went, yeah, please do that. So basically, Business for Scotland is the company, the limited company that runs Business for Scotland, the business network, and the research company. And Believe in Scotland is our campaign, but it's also our vehicle to support local yes groups, because we think the only thing that moved the polls in 2014, and actually, it was conversations. It was people, local yes groups having conversations. It was people chatting to one another. It was social media, etc. So we're trying to help the yes groups get ready so that we can hit the ground running for Indy Ref 2. And that's what this Autumn of Action, kicking off on Saturday with the Day of Action, is all about.
But you're very much, we've worked with you for a long time, Gordon, over the years, worked with Business for Scotland and now latterly with Believe in Scotland. But there's definitely something about what you're doing at the moment which is really kind of professional. You've got a full-time team, you've got a lot of people working on it. So who's obviously a familiar face for national readers as well, working behind the scenes. Who's part of the team and what do they do?
Well, it's a huge team. First of all, the team isn't just in Believe in Scotland. It's not just who works for the organisation. It's everybody that's actually involved in this campaign. So we've got 110 groups. I think it just went to 111. We just got an email from St Andrews students saying we're back at uni. How do we get involved tonight? So it's probably going to grow overnight as well. So we've got 110 groups and people there working really hard to get all of the materials that we're putting out across Scotland to all those groups. We've got 14 drivers. Driving, people just at a moment's notice driving from Edinburgh to Glasgow to pick up 20, 30 boxes that are pretty heavy and drive them up to Aberdeen the next morning, etc. That's great. Shout out to Dave Maxwell for doing that for us. We've got 11 distribution hubs. That's people who are filling their garages and occasionally their living rooms when they didn't realise just how much material we're going to send to them. We've got some interesting photographs of people's living rooms where they can't get in. 8 people in the office packing. And in total, that's 600,000 items of campaign material that we've actually sent out already, and we've got another 100,000 in the office still waiting to go out. 8 moderators of our Facebook group. We've got 8 staff as well in headquarters. Although we're not all in headquarters. Headquarters have been pretty much a warehouse for the last 18 months, but. I've actually, funnily enough, Andrew McLeod, our social media guy, I've hired him and then kind of promoted him, and I've never actually met him, which is kind of interesting. It's sort of a COVID lockdown sort of thing. But yeah, that's so it's a massive team of hundreds of people, because it's all we're doing is facilitating a grassroots movement right across Scotland, and obviously we're teaming up with you as our media partner for this push, with the National Yes Network, which is great because they've been a conduit to us speaking to the local groups and working with them and through distribution as well, and also with the Scottish Independence Foundation, with whom we share an office as well. We give them free office space because they've been funding the local grassroots movement to get ready for Indy Ref 2. So it's a huge team. And I don't know what's going on at any particular time because everyone's doing their own little bits. I just sort of join meetings every so often, and I'm often impressed by what's going on that I don't know about, and that tells me I'm doing my job right, because I'm not totally in control of it. Not one person could be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've got people. I think now that we've been back in the office, we've got a new office in Glasgow, that I actually have pretty much now met everybody that I've hired over the pandemic period. But it's definitely been it's been a very, very strange time.
It's weird
to be running a newspaper as well. I mean, I don't know how we managed it in those first couple of months. If you had told me 2 years ago that you'd be able to produce an entire newspaper from home without ever going into an office, I would not have believed you. But then somehow we were just kind of thrust into it with 2 or 3 days notice.
When I worked for the Scotsman in the 90s, I would have to say, this is paying my way through university selling advertising in the Scotsman building. I have to say, it struck me that newspapers are actually produced in pubs. And most journalists were completely inebriated. So the idea of those guys, I hope they're not still in the business, because they would not survive working from home.
Yeah, it's changed days. It's a changed industry since then, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. Look. So tell us about. So we've got the day of action on Saturday, which is the kind of immediate thing which we're asking everybody to get involved with tonight, and we'll talk a bit about that. But the kind of broader thing, which is that we want this autumn to kind of kick off the new campaign for independence. We want to ramp things up. Well, why now?
Well, because we've got a rock solid commitment for a referendum before the end of 2023. And I think, I don't think I know, there was a will within the Scottish government, as it then was, to have a referendum earlier than this, except for various things got in the way, one of which being COVID, others being that the Brexit bounce didn't happen immediately in the way we thought it would, because initially there was a knee-jerk reaction. People went, let's vote for independence because of Brexit, and then they went, oh God, Brexit's going to be terrible, it's going to be hard, maybe now's not the best time to actually put more chaos into it, but what we have to do is we have to say, well, here's the plan for independence, and here's how it works, how it actually aids recovery from Brexit, and how it aids recovery from the pandemic. And then you're looking at when will this actually be? I think the earliest we can actually hold a referendum, so we've got the May Council elections. The bill will be published, go through the Parliament the referendums bill will go through the Parliament in February next year. And before the May elections, maybe when the bill comes through, the Scottish Government will announce a date, I believe. I think that if they want to really get their vote out in the May Council elections, they have to announce a date before then. I suspect they'll go for, the earliest they could go for is September 22. I suspect they'll go for May 23, given that if there is some sort of Supreme Court battle to try and stop it, etc., then they can be pushed back to September. But it will be by September 23, and that's not that long away. And for those people like myself who had 3 years to run a campaign coming up to the day, let me tell you, a couple of years or 18 months even is not a long time to run a campaign, to be ready, to raise enough money, to do everything we need to do. And the Scottish Government's got some work to do, because it's got to rewrite its entire economic prospectus for independence away from where it has been recently to one that's more open on well-being and resilience, and one that actually makes some statements, clear statements about what we're going to pay for pensions, which is the key message of this weekend. And if they do all, that's going to take time. And doing all of that, I think we're looking at May 23. And so really, if it's May 23, we've got to start now. We've got to get ready now. We've got to shake the movement up. We've got to start campaigning. We've got to start having a conversation with people, because the newspapers have been relentless whilst we've been arguing amongst ourselves.
Yeah, the
Long
shift.
answer, sorry.
No, it's okay. No, look, I think everybody watching this will be kind of heartened to hear that you think that it's a sure thing for at least 2023. I know a lot of people will want it sooner than that, but I think given the circumstances, most people would be expecting that. I think at the very least. So I think that's great. You mentioned there just about the shift away from. Or the shift to a well-being prospectus, and to be thinking about the economics of well-being, and now that's something that you're, as Believe in Scotland, are very big on. I've seen you talk about it all the time. I've seen you write about it personally and talk about it all the time. First of all, why is that so important? But secondly, how do you see Believe in Scotland's role in? I mean, what should Believe in Scotland be doing to push that? You're not really a think tank, but are you kind of suggesting ideas, or are you kind of, are you wanting to adopt policies for the wider movement?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the?
Well, the setup is we have Business for Scotland, which is the business network, which runs our annual dinner. It's basically look at the Chamber of Commerce, ILD, CBI for Scotland, that sort of thing, and we've got a few thousand members. Then you've got Believe in Scotland, our campaign, our grassroots campaign, and that's got roughly 15,000 members. It's growing 2,000 over the last 48 hours, or maybe 72 hours. And then we've got an actual think tank, which is called Scotianomics. And Scotianomics has been doing a lot of policy research, but we don't do policy research and then publish it on Facebook. We tend to do policy research and then try to use that research to influence the Scottish government. So we've done lots of polls. We present information or give expert evidence to the Scottish government, the UK House of Commons and the House of Lords, and also to the OECD and economic policies, etc. So, and my background is as an economist. So basically, we do the research.
Oh dear, are we losing Gordon? It's not me, is it? I'm still here. Okay. Now, Gordon, he was talking about how he had an issue potentially with his charger, so I hope his battery hasn't suddenly run out of his mid-sentence. We've got some people behind the scenes here who can hopefully try and get Gordon back in. Why don't we just go through some comments at the moment then, just while we're waiting for Gordon and try and bring him back in. So, so SnowOps59 says, why do we need such a long campaign? I guess for some of the reasons that Gordon outlined there. He was talking about the fact that we need to rewrite the Scottish Government needs to rewrite the economic prospectus. There's obviously a lot that's changed since 2014. Brexit has meant that there are several issues which kind of need rethought, I guess, particularly involving borders, trade, Scotland's place in Europe. Oh, here we have Gordon back. Right there.
Hi, I'm here. I don't know what happened there.
I thought I handled that quite professionally. You weren't here, but I kept
We're
going. Put some comments up and started chatting. So yeah. Where were you?
What I was saying is we've got the Scotianomics does the research, and we give expert advice to various parliaments, etc., various research bodies, and so we do have our own think tank, but the kind of the role ongoing in terms of well-being is, and I guess our interest in well-being started back in 2020. I didn't see it, but it must have been 2011, basically, because we got Business for Scotland together, and we gathered as many people who were business owners and directors of businesses, and said, right, we're going to start this Business for Scotland organisation. It's going to be pro-independence. We're going to counter the arguments of the CBI, who will be part of the No campaign because they're the big London-based corporates tell them what to do, and they wouldn't like the tax regime in Scotland, possibly. so we basically said, right, let's come up with a mission statement. And so we asked about, I think we had about 500 members at the time. We asked the members, what do you want to do? And, what do you think we should stand for? And they said, oh, well, we should all agree, every member should agree to pay the real living wage. Okay, we should invest in the future. We should train young people. And by the time I'd actually finished it, I thought, oh my God, we are so different to any other business organization that exists. And we actually said, this is a well-being agenda. And at the time, we'd never heard of the phrase well-being being used anywhere in the world. So we were sort of like going, okay, fine, we'd heard about it as a health thing, etc., as a social thing, but not as an economic thing. And we said, this hangs together as a whole economic approach. So from day one, we have actually been a well-being lobbying organization. And you can see, because we've never changed our goals, we've never changed the words on our website. If you go and look at what we're about, you'll see that the sort of things that people are saying within the Scottish Government right now, Kate Forbes in particular, it's very much echoes what we've been pushing for in our Zoom meetings with them, in our lunches with them, the annual dinners that they turn to, etc. We've been pushing for this. And we also provide information. For instance, we just polled 2,000 people yesterday, or finished polling 2,000 people yesterday. And one of the questions we asked them, and this is not something, we won't be publishing it, this is not a press releasable thing, but one of the things, we will be releasing this issue, but if you actually say to people, what if we offered you a well-being approach to economics, and it adds 9 or 10% to the yes vote, like that. And so it is the key to winning, in my view. So what I say to the Scottish Government when I talk to them, and I had a Zoom meeting with Kate Forbes and her team a few months ago, actually, and I said, look, you've got to put the Scottish Government budget out there and say, look, this is what we spend and we balance it. You put GERS out there and say, this is GERS, which is the UK. This is what our finances look like, the state of our finances in the UK because of Westminster decisions. And this is the well-being approach that we're going to take, and we've costed it, and this is what we think the economy will look like if we follow a well-being approach. And that comparison wins us the referendum, because it's all about whether they think we can afford the promises we're going to make. And that's why pensioners didn't vote for us last time, because they were worried they were going to lose the pension and we couldn't afford it. It was a complete lie. They were being told to move the pensions to English banks, because the Scottish banks would go under and all that sort of stuff by the No campaign. So basically, this time we are going to have a major role in communicating, and we hope in setting the policy agenda, but also, we now know what we're doing. I think this day of action shows nobody was ever really getting 110 or 111, as it probably is now, yes groups to coordinate activities in the same day, and then within 5 working days getting 600,000 pieces of information to them. And if we tried in 2014, it would cost us £1 million to do, whereas now we can afford to do it within our own little crowdfunders. So we know what we're doing now, and hopefully that's going to make an even bigger difference.
Yeah, let's talk about the day of action, and then after that, I guess we can move on to questions, because we've got quite a few kind of coming in now. We had some before that people want to ask you. Just want to say hello to everyone that's tuned in. We've got about 300 watching live at the moment. Around half on our channels, around half on Believe in Scotland's channel. So hopefully we're reaching more people when we're combining together. So the day of action. Let me just explain sort of. You've kind of talked a bit about it. What we're doing from the national point of view, first of all. So we've been working with Believe in Scotland, who have provided us with the content and the design actually for a 24-page. I'm going to say it's a supplement, but it's not really a supplement. It's a mini newspaper, and we've printed. There you go, brilliant, yeah, excellent. It looks really, really good. We've printed 50,000 copies. I think you said, Gordon, you thought we'd sent over a few thousand extra, which is good of us. And it was designed by Richard Walker, former founding editor of the National. It looks really, really terrific, and we've got those. Believe in Scotland has managed to get those into the hands of lots of yes groups who are going to either distribute that this weekend on Saturday to people, or later in the Autumn of Indy Action. The other thing that we're doing is we have that 24-page thing. So if you're not signed up to a yes group or going to do it, or you maybe don't want to get involved in a really kind of big thing on Saturday, but you can still get that 24-page supplement within the pages of this Saturday's National. So it's not too late if you don't have a copy of that already. We're going to be printing it again inside as 24 extra pages in Saturday's edition. We've already sold an extra 5,000 of them bulk to yes groups and to organisations. So we've got another lot going out. But if you just want to pick up a copy for yourself and then a copy for somebody extra, you can just go in and buy 2 copies in the shops on Saturday. So we encourage you to try and get as many of them as possible. We've put extra copies into shops. Our distribution isn't perfect. We can't predict where everyone's going to be and where everyone's going to be wanting extra copies, but we've definitely printed a hell of a lot of extra copies for Saturday. So there should be plenty out there. So please pick up a copy of the National if you haven't got the 24-page supplement already. And Gordon, you can probably tell us a lot about what else is going on and what other yes groups are up to.
Absolutely. Just let me say something about this, which is everybody's talked about the Scotland the Brief book. Now, we're up at 41,000 copies of Scotland the Brief in both formats have been sold now. And that's what's funding all the activities that we've been doing over the last few years, the billboards, all these sort of things. But what I was going to say is this is 24 pages of the key messages from Scotland the Brief with updated stuff on COVID, on Brexit, etc., etc. And when we talk about putting, would it be great if we could put a copy of Scotland the Brief through every door in Scotland? Well, yeah, it would be great. It probably cost us £1 million, even if we delivered them ourselves. But to put one of these through every door in Scotland would not cost that much money. And so what I want to say to people is have a look at this, have a read through it, understand how accessible the information in this is. I'll just open it at any sort of page. Oh, this is the pensions page there, which I really had a second look at there. Basically, the information in here is key to converting undecided and soft-nosed pensioners and older Labour voters to our side. So if you've got somebody who's says to you, they sort of fall into one of those brackets and they say, my heart says yes, I really quite like the idea of an independent school, my head says no. Get them a copy of the newspaper or get one from the stands, give them to that person because their head will say yes after they've read it as well, and it will work, it will convert people. So sorry, you wanted to know what's going on in the sort of yes groups, etc. I mean, we've got this. I don't know if we can put it on screen, but we've actually started putting together. It will go live tomorrow morning, but we can show it just now, which is the interactive map of where all the yes groups that are taking part are.
We can show you a wee image from it there. It's just kind of a wee bit hard for us to share a screen on this stream, but you can see there. I guess the map of Scotland easily enough. And is there a link for this that we can have? Presumably, it's just available on the Believe in Scotland site. Really
it's on the Believe in Scotland. Yep. It's on the Believe in Scotland site. We've just published it. We'll be promoting it tomorrow. Basically, if you go there and you click on the map, you can then click on any of the dots. You can see what local group is there, and there's contact details for them, so you can join them if you want to, either on the day or later, etc. And it tells you who they are, where they are, what they're about to do, etc. And there's over 100. The one we haven't put on yet, and there's a couple of European pro-independence groups have contacted us and said we'll be doing stuff on the day as well. So it's gone outside of Scotland as well. I mean, would have been nice to have planned that, but it's just one of these good things. But groups around Scotland are doing some pretty incredible things. Just off the top of my head, there's a couple that have been telling us what they're planning. Yes, Forfar is running Indy Tour of Angus, taking in Forfar, Brecon, Montrose, Arbroath, Carnoustie, Monfief, Kingsmuir, Glamis, etc. So they're saying it's over 79 miles of flag waving noise from cars, etc. They'll also be doing flags on bridges and also a stand in front of their hub, the Blether Inn. Yes for EU are doing something that I'm very interested in. If I get a chance, I want to go and visit them. They're at the Parliament with an eye-catching display of saltires and banners, all 27 EU flags and large yes flags outside the Scottish Parliament to convey the message that Scotland should be an independent country within the EU. Yes, Strathern and Strathallan are doing food bank collection. Yes, Cowell are doing a raffle in their local area and hub. Edinburgh Women for Independence even have some people coming by from Catalonia because they're studying the differences between our campaigns and theirs. It's good for them to actually have a campaign to look at this time when they're doing that. Yes, Pentland's doing another car cavalcade with yes stickers, flags, etc. They'll be going around Wester Hills, etc. And yes, Skye and Loch Alsh are all taking part in the Skye Bridge Walk and waving flags, etc. So, you know, there's groups from as far away as, well, from Shetland to the borders, etc. There's some key areas where we're going to be doing extra work and extra leaflet drops, etc. I've got the leaflets that we have sent out to people here. A key message is this one on pensions, which is that we want to raise the pensions initially to £200, which is £64.20 a week increase, and then increase it until pensioner property is ended. And the one that people will know already, which is the Scotland's Wealth one, we've already put out 250,000 of these. We've done 180,000 of these to yes groups this week each, and one on renewables and one on well-being, and we've done 70,000 each of these. So you get some sort of idea. 180,000 wealth, 180,000 pensions, 70 well-being, 70 renewables, 50,000 copies of Open Minds. When you add in all the mini books that we've done, all the canvases, all the car stickers, all these sort of things, when you add them, and badges, when you add them all together, it's 600,000 items of campaigning material gone out from our office this week, and they're all ready except for one single box, which will arrive on Saturday morning via parcel force, are all already in the hands of organisations, of campaigning organisations, and I think that's going to kickstart things, and it's time that oh yeah, and they're all getting mugs as well. We've got Bleeding Scotland mugs and Scotland's Wealth mugs too. I think there's about 500-600 of those going out. We must be one of the biggest mug retailers in Scotland. I think I'll have to look into that in a week. That's more than Marks and Spencer. But so basically, all of those materials are going out. There are tools to, and there's a lot more that I just don't have with me here as well. But there are tools to go and engage with the undecided, with the soft nodes, to answer questions, and we've also got a searchable PDF copy of Scotland Brief Mini that anyone who pledges their support for our campaign can actually get their hands on, and you can do that through the National's Yes Challenge site as well. I don't know if you want to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the yeschallenge.scot site is still up there. We originally launched it for the Open Minds Challenge, where we were asking people to sign up and get some really, really great Open Minds articles into the hands of undecided voters. You can still do that, incidentally. The Open Minds section of our site is still there. It's got all 24 of the articles that were written by Believe in Scotland and Gordon sent over to us. Really, really well researched. Great stuff on a number of the kind of key questions. I'm noticing that we've got a question from Helen here, who's on YouTube, who's saying, will the supplement be available online as I read the National on the app? So yes, it will. The 50,000 copies that we've sent to Gordon, we printed them last week. That's all been done separately. But those same 24 pages are going to appear in Saturday's edition, and you'll be able to get them on the digital edition, and you'll be able to get them on the app as well. The basics of it, like most of it already exists on that Open Mind section of the site, but they've been refined a bit, they've been edited a bit, they've been some of them are quite long for the pages, so they've been shortened to make them snappier and more concise. But the stuff's looking really good, and someone else did ask if we would make the PDFs available as well, and I think just as a general principle, both Gordon and I would agree that you know, the material is there for you to use in whatever way you want. So the more area that we can get it to you, the better, I think. So no, all good. Well, what do you think? Should we try and answer a few questions? We've had a few questions coming through for you, Gordon. Is there anything that we need to say about the day of action before we move on to those?
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is this day of action is us helping coordinate 110 yes groups. but people can join in themselves. So on the day, there's going to be multiple challenges that we'll be sharing through social media. We want 1,000 shares for our pensions images and key messages, etc. We're also doing something which is called just hashtag Believe in Scotland, because, and we want people to say in 50 words or less why they believe in Scotland. And we've actually got some great examples already. And people really surprise me and sort of make me think, yeah, that's the sort of Scotland I want to live in. So we're going to be launching that. We'll probably do a prize or something like that for the best ones. So people should have a think about what they can post. Hashtag Believe in Scotland because, and then say something positive about Scotland. And get that sharing. Let's get a Twitter storm going around that. As well on Facebook and Twitter, etc. The other thing is something that I do every year. I don't know if other people do this, but September the 18th is a miserable date for us. It's the 7th anniversary of it. And the significance of that is the Good Friday Agreement, which, although they're trying to rip that up at the moment, the Good Friday Agreement actually says there can be a referendum on Irish unification every 7 years. It's political generation. So we want to own that date. And what I do every year is I hang a saltire at my window and I put a yes sign back up in defiance. So let's do that this year. Let's everyone do that. Take a photograph, put hashtag Believe in Scotland. We'll share it on all of our social media sites. And the other thing is the pledge. Sign the pledge. Let us know who you are. We're organising a campaign here. And unfortunately, the biggest way we've got to communicate, it's not just us, it's all the other yes groups, etc. The biggest way we've got to contribute, to contact people is to put messages on Facebook. So we're at, we're at the mercy of Facebook's algorithms, whims, etc. We need to collect people's email addresses and telephone numbers to know where they are, to know what their skills are, that sort of thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's involved in the Catalonian independence movement, and I said, how do you get 1 million people in the streets at 24 hours notice? We couldn't do that. And he says, oh, we've got everybody's mobile phone number. We just text 1 million people and they all turn up. And I thought, yeah, that's how you run a campaign. So there are many things we do better than they do, but that's one thing they do better than us. So pledge, give us your information. We'll give you a free ebook, and we'll be able to then tell you what's going on in your area and keep you up to date, etc. So that's the key things that people have to do.
Just going to answer one quick question here we've got from random. So rather than just subscribing to the Nationals, a way to donate to them? Yes, there is. You can go onto our site and there's a donate button up the top. It's also just thenational.scot/donate. Sure, you can do the same thing on the Believe in Scotland website as well.
BelieveInScotland.org/donate.
There you go. There's a plug for you. Okay, so you've already answered the question that everybody asks, which is when do you think the next independence referendum will be? So we can skip that. With a question from Steve. No further details. It's in, and you sent me this. I can't remember if you texted me this or you emailed me this earlier in the week, Gordon. But given the band Texas's movement from no to yes. Is there any evidence that this celebrity endorsement helps to move others along the path from no or undecided to yes? What do you think? How important is a celebrity endorsement?
Yes, it can work if you use it properly. I think that I've actually compiled a list of all the bands and all the actors that said yes or no last time round, and it's getting to the point whereas the no side don't really have any celebrities. I think they've got Susan Calman, whose dad's Lord Calman of the Calman Commission, and they've got that actress who's in the submarine drama that's on Sundays at the moment, but her dad, I think, is the chairman of a conservative organisation. I'm not quite sure. She was in Game of Thrones, and they've got the guy that played Captain Jack in the Doctor Who thing, who's probably not the best person to be a spokesperson at the moment.
Right. Neil
Other
Oliver.
than that, I can't Neil Oliver, because he's still a celebrity. But yeah, that's pretty much what they've got. Everyone else you could name seems to be switching. I've seen Primal Scream, Texas switching. Annie Lennox has made some noises about switching as well. Billy Connolly, etc. They've got nobody left. Oh, Neil, what's it called? Neil, not Neil Tennant. He's from Pet Shop Boys. Who was the chap that was Doctor Who that did Better Together videos last time round? David Tennant. Yes. So yeah, you've got all of those guys coming out for independence. Now, if we use them properly, I don't see why not. Last time round, when they did this "Please Don't Leave" thing, I thought it was quite effective. It was like, we love you, don't leave, etc. And so we stayed, and then they ripped us out of the EU and did all the other things that, So I think basically we should get our celebs back, and we should send a message to them saying, sorry, it's not you, it's us. We have to move on.
Okay, we've got another question from Jonathan here. This one was submitted before the live stream. I guess you maybe answered this already, but we'll see what you say. During the Brexit referendum, Vote Leave used their 350 million figure relentlessly, Jonathan says. While they had to rely on an entirely spurious figure, we have many, many solid figures to support the financial case for independence. So, right, I guess the question from Jonathan is, if there was one figure that you could put on the side of a bus, what would it be? Would it be a pension figure, or would it be something?
I would say, right, so at this moment in time, the UK government is breaking their pledge to keep the triple lock on pensions. It's not going to rise by inflation, etc. It's not going to go up every year. So basically, they're freezing it. They're making pensions, which are already the worst in the developed world, lowest in developed world as a percentage of final earnings. And just at that point, we are going to say, what we're campaigning for is a real living pension. We're trying to work out how much it costs for a pensioner to actually live with dignity, and we think that should be part of the well-being approach in an independent Scotland. So yeah, I would put on the side of a bus, we're going to raise your pension to £200 a week for the basic state pension, and then just watch how they're basically cutting your pension elsewhere. That's the comparison that will really make a difference with older voters. Older voters don't not like the idea of an independent Scotland. They just they fear change more than anyone else. If anyone's got an elderly relative, etc., you understand just how much anxiety they get as they get older about being able to pay their bills. That's the key message.
It's quite a good question. That I like that one. I'll keep that in mind. Like, what would you put on a bus during the next campaign? Thanks, Jonathan, for that one. I'm going to put one up on the screen here, which has just come in from Gus. Interestingly, I was going to ask, how's your battery doing, Gordon? Are we okay to keep going for another?
I've just been plugged in. I don't know if you can see in the mirror my son's head going across with sneaking in and plugging me in. So we're plugged in now.
Yeah, okay. We won't go on too long because I know people have things to do. But the audience is kind of growing a bit over time, so we're getting people joining in, which is good. So we'll keep going.
Cool.
Who will lead Better Together 2? Gus Simpson says, and is I guess a question I have is Believe in Scotland the anti-Better Together next time? Are you kind of trying to fulfill that role?
What I always say to that is that the Yes movement will decide who's going to be the lead group, who's going to take the lead in the independence movement. And if anybody wants to take the lead, then do better than us. And we're going to set the bar pretty high. And if someone does better than us, I will sit back and watch us become independent, because they'll be pretty damn good. Gus has asked that question. Thank you, Gus. You're one of our volunteers who actually packed up all the boxes. We're going to do our thing because we were asked to. My understanding is that the SNP are not keen on setting up another Yes Scotland monolithic campaign like they did last time, and I'm not keen for them to do that either. I don't think anyone in the Yes movement is, to be honest. So basically, yes, that is a role that we are happy to play if people want us to play that role. Who will lead Better Together is a brilliant question, because you've got Gordon Brown thinking he's going to lead Better Together and he's going to make all these promises about federalism, but the Conservatives will say, you ain't offering that because you have no power to do that. Whereas last time they were happy to make those lies, they now can't do that. So they can't work together. There's no Better Together. Because if you've got Gordon Brown going, don't worry, I'm not in power, we have no power, but we're going to give you federalism. First of all, England has to vote for federalism. We can't make a federal UK without England deciding to vote for federalism, and they do not want it. They want to be in charge of everything. Not England, but the English MPs. Secondly, the UK government's taking powers away. So how can you campaign to offer us a federalism whilst the actual government is making decisions, is taking powers from the Scottish government? It doesn't work. So the only people who can lead Better Together, but they won't lead Better Together, lead the No campaign, will be the Conservative Party. So we're up against, this is the beauty of it all, we're not up against Labour this time, who were effective last time but effectively destroyed themselves as a result. We'll be up against the Conservatives, and that's a whole different battle.
Thanks. Diane says, keep going. I'm enjoying this. It's only Corey and the telly can watch on catch up. So thanks very much. For those
I'm missing Corey.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you who've only tuned in, you can, of course, watch this on catch up. Probably the easiest way to do it is on maybe the National's YouTube, but it will also be on the Believe in Scotland Facebook pages if you scroll back as well. Please subscribe and like all those pages. That would be really useful. We got an. I wonder if I can find the comment to put it up on the screen. It was a comment. I took a note of it from Charles Smith earlier. God, we've had so many comments that it's difficult to go all that way back. But basically, they were asking what's your view on the media coverage of independence and what do we do about it?
Well, first of all, I think it's absolutely vital. I'm bigging you up here, but I think it's absolutely vital that we do have the National, Sunday National, who are pro-independence papers. It is an absolute disgrace that 50% of the population want independence, possibly more than that support the SNP, and the media is dominated by newspapers that actually support a government that we just reject time and time again, and as a people would never elect in an independent Scotland. So that is disgraceful. I think that people will remember that the Business for Scotland had a lot of trained spokespeople last time round, and we were handling interview after interview with radio, TV from around the world, etc. On the day when the Chancellor of the Bank of England the Governor of the Bank of England came to Edinburgh, and they did this sermon on the pound, they called it, where he said there was going to be problems if we tried to share the currency, etc., which has since been admitted wouldn't have been the case. But on that day, we fielded 17 interviews. And it was really, most of them on live TV. And it was really interesting because by the time we got to that, we knew how to answer every single question. And then in the last week, what happened was all the UK editors, political editors, all the people who sit behind the desk in London came up to Scotland and they started asking stupid questions. They didn't know the answers. They didn't know that the questions had been destroyed, that they're asking, etc. And it then resurfaced all of the original worries from 9 months earlier in the campaign, because it switched from people who knew how to ask questions, who knew how the messaging had progressed, to people who were saying, you can't really afford anything, can you? Because of, so we had to go back 9 months to the attacks that they started at the beginning of the campaign, and that mustn't happen again. We need professionalism from TV, because that isn't neutral. The other thing is that, there's newspapers in Scotland, which are not particularly keen on the SNP, but are particularly keen on Europe, that would be particularly keen on a well-being approach, and would be particularly keen, because they've got a lot of older readers, on a pensions offer which was believable and on point, that they could get behind. So I think that there's a couple of big newspapers that actually will not be anti-independence this time round, that may decide to stay neutral, and might even be some little switch.
I've got another question here from this is just from Malcolm, but I've been kind of watching the comments and as they've been coming through, there's been a little bit of chat along these lines anyway. We'll ask this one and then we'll ask one final question and then probably wrap it up if that's okay, Gordon.
Sure.
But Malcolm says, do you think the undecideds we need to win over are seeing the scrapping between the SNP and Alba? And do you think it will impact on their likelihood of voting yes? What do you reckon?
I don't think
I was just going to say that there's something that I admire a lot about Believe in Scotland is its positivity, and it's laser kind of focus on doing what it does best and not getting embroiled in these kind of things. And I think you're very, very, very good at that. And yeah, I'm interested in your view, as is Malcolm.
Not getting involved in the politics is something that's absolutely key to, I think, our success. We're totally not aligned to any political party. We've never been funded by a political party, and we would refuse if we were offered some funding. We're good friends with a lot of people right throughout the movement, and that's how we want to stay. I think in one of my columns in the National I did earlier on, I think I said it's like the gunfighters arriving in the old western town in the movies. And the sheriff walks up to them and says, leave your guns in the sheriff's office before you go to the salon. And that's kind of how we say our Facebook group, which has grown to 25,000 members in just 13 months. we say we don't do it. We don't care if you want to argue about the SNP's internal policy-making processes. This is not a group for this. This is a group to talk about Scotland's future. And so that's quite important. And it has allowed, a lot of people say it's the best group that they're a member of. Yeah, I've got Lynn Mowat there saying, yes, movement needs to be party neutral. It's absolutely the case. In terms of, are they undecided, seeing the stoochy between Alba and SNP members on Facebook, etc., and getting put off? Not a great deal. I know that the actual Holyrood inquiry did impact on the polls, because we were 58% before and we were 48% not long afterwards. And anyone who says it didn't, whoever you blame for that, like I say, I don't care who you blame. It happened. Let's move on. Let's get a positive message in front of people. But I think that the negativity has had an impact, because as we've been setting this up, there's 110 organisations or yes groups taking part. There's another 60 or 70 that aren't, because they're defunct. They're sitting there with people feeling depressed. They go on Facebook to get their hit from the yes movement, and they're getting fighting and they're getting slagged off, etc. So basically, what they're doing is they're going, all right, I'm not going to do anything, right? I'm not going to restart. There's about 30 to 40 of these 110 groups are actually restarting as a result of us lighting a fire under them with this opportunity and saying, you can get all these materials, you can do stuff, we can be positive. So no, I don't think it's putting off the undecided voters, because they don't really know about it that much. But a unified front is going to be absolutely 100% vital between the Greens, Alba, and the SNP when we actually get to it. But I get to the actual referendum campaign itself. But at the end of the day, I don't think the referendum campaign should be led by a political party. It needs to be led by the grassroots organisation, and that's kind of what we're trying to kick off.
Good answer. So that kind of takes us nicely back full circle to Saturday. Let's. Why don't you just sum it up again for? I know we've had quite a few people that have tuned in the last kind of 5 minutes or so. We've got the biggest audience we've had so far now. So, what's happening on Saturday, and what do we need to do?
So on Saturday, 110 yes groups have joined us to campaign with us in a concerted day of action, which kicks off our Autumn of Indy Action. We have distributed 600,000 items of campaigning materials to those groups, and they're going to be doing everything from flag protests, or not protests, it's a positive thing, outside the Parliament, to food bank drives and litter pickups on beaches, car cavalcades, bridges, with flags on them, etc. And we'll be distributing hundreds, over 500,000 leaflets, and also 50,000 or 40,000 of the 50,000 open minds or thereabouts on Saturday during the day of action. It is the single biggest coordinated campaign that I've ever heard of in the independence movement right since 2011, and it's really feels great to be able to facilitate activity like this. We're going to be asking people to share #BelieveInScotland because, and then say in less than 50 words why they believe in Scotland, and share that across social media. We're asking people to put a flag in their windows, or an old yes sign, or a new yes sign, or go to our gallery and print something off and put it in your windows. Let people know that it's been 7 years and we're now ready to have another referendum, and that there's big support across Scotland. And we're asking people to pledge either through our site, believinscotland.org/pledge, or through the Nationals and, well, our joint venture on the Yes Challenge there. And if you do either of those, we will give you a free copy of the Scotland Brief book, which is sold 41,000 hard copies, but we'll give you a PDF there. And the final thing, which we haven't talked about yet, which hopefully we've got a wee image we can show you, is we're launching tomorrow morning a new series of regional Facebook pages for the Yes movement. This is from our site now, so you can see all the council areas are colour coded, so you can find your regional page, and every single page has its own design, which is relevant to the actual area, so you'll be able to see that. And there's 14 pages, I believe. And basically what will happen is that when somebody from, say, Aberdeen says, here we are campaigning in Aberdeen or Helensburgh, doing a lot of street work, etc. Here we are delivering leaflets, etc. Hashtag Believe in Scotland. We will collect that data, and our social media team will put it on the regional pages, and we'll also then hopefully be able to use those pages to let people know what's happening in your region, and also to send new members to local Yes groups. So that's a big initiative that's happening as well.
Got some images here that we can. I don't know if you can you see these as well, Gordon? I know the people watching can see them. But these are just some images of some of the work that's been going on behind the
packing
scenes.
Team.
We'll have some of these images in Saturday's paper as well. That's the Open Minds many newspapers that are being published and being distributed. We think about 55,000 of them. The order was 50,000, but we've got
17,500 in that picture.
Is that only? That's only all right. That's less
17,500.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well,
like I say, some people are standing looking at 10,000 at the living room, going, "What am I going to do for the next 2 weeks?"
Yeah. So what you're seeing there on the screen is only about a third of them, which is brilliant. But also, if you don't have them coming your way, if you haven't ordered them, we're also reprinting this 24 pages inside this Saturday's National. So even if you're just one person and you just want one extra copy that you can give to somebody else, you can go to the shops and get one. We've also been doing bulk sales in our shop on the website, and we've distributed, or we will be distributing on Saturday morning, another 5,000. So there's absolutely loads of material going out there from us, much more from Believe in Scotland as well, but also I guess key is the Yes groups on the ground, which are really kind of facilitating all these things. So absolutely fantastic. How can people? So we're going to just wrap up, Gordon. How can people? Well, I'll say ours first. If you want to support the National, here's what you need to do: subscribe. thenational.scot/subscribe. If you're not a subscriber already, what are you doing? There's probably a very good intro offer on at the moment. In fact, there's one going along the screen at the moment. 20% off an annual subscription. Please sign up. It helps us do events like this, which I'm really enjoying doing over the last kind of few weeks. We'll bring in lots more special guests as well. Gordon, what about Believe in Scotland? What should people do?
So go to our website, have a look at the interactive map. We'll be publishing that on our Facebook pages and on our group tomorrow and on Twitter. Play about with the map, see what your local group's doing, go and support them. If they're doing something, a food bank drive, go and take food to them. If they're giving out leaflets, offer your time. If you can't, don't worry, but log on Saturday morning to our Facebook pages and on Twitter as well, and you'll see we put the challenges there. And the challenges will be to say why you believe in Scotland and use the hashtag Believe in Scotland. Put a flag in your window, share our key messages on pensions. We want to get 1,000 shares. That will hit maybe 500,000 people. We'll see that there, and also sign the pledge, either the Yes Challenge pledge or the Believe in Scotland pledge. You can see those on our websites, etc. I'm sure we can put the Yes Challenge address up. You'll get a free PDF of the book, which you can use to convert friends to independence. And this is what it's all about. We're beginning to have conversations. We're beginning to take to the streets again. We're going to start owning the narrative from this point onwards, so that when the referendum is called next year, and we know when it's going to be, that we hit the streets running. Our biggest advantage: the opposition can outspend us. The UK government can just go and spend whatever it wants. They can channel dark funds to all sorts of fake, supposed grassroots organisations. We can't. But what we can do is we can work together as a team, and there's hundreds of thousands of us that are willing to go out and act and push this. They don't have anybody that isn't paid. They have to pay the post office to deliver the leaflets. This is our big advantage. So let's get the grassroots working. Let's get the grassroots rocking throughout Scotland and get ready, because we are going to win. I can feel it in my gut. I never really thought we were going to win last time round. That was always hope. I know that there is a path to victory this time in 2023. So let's take it.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Gordon. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone that's been joining us. We've had well over 300 people tuning in for the duration of the broadcast, peaking at around 400, which is incredible, really. Thank you across Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Believe in Scotland, 3 main Facebook pages as well. So wherever you are, thanks for joining in, and thanks for taking part. And I've been very entertained by your comments, reading through them. I've only been able to put up a handful on the screen. Some haven't been fit for broadcast. A few trolls in there as well. So thanks for spending your time with us as well. And thanks very much to Gordon for coming along tonight.
Pleasure.
We'll see you all later.
Cheers. Bye-bye for now.